Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going deep into the world of solar-powered pumps with a company making a splash in India, Shakti Pumps. We've got some really interesting excerpts here from their Q2 and H1 FY25 earnings conference call.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, he gives us kind of like a peek behind the curtain of a company experiencing phenomenal growth. It's pretty impressive.
It's a great chance to analyze a company that's really riding the wave of a growing industry.
Yeah, exactly. So to set the scene a little bit, Shakti Pumps manufactures pumps.
Okay.
And their specialty is the solar-powered kind.
Makes sense.
They're a major player in India's solar pump market.
Yep.
And, that market's booming.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to sort of explore, their different business segments.
Okay.
And understand the industry landscape, like the big picture. And then examine, what's driving their success and maybe some of the challenges they're facing along the way.
Yeah. It's always interesting to see how those play out, right? Growth and opportunity, but rapid expansion.
Yeah.
Can definitely lead to some bumps in the road.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of growth, get this. They've achieved a 3x revenue growth year on year.
Wow.
Pretty impressive, right? But as we kind of dig into their operations, we're going to see some potential roadblocks too.
Okay.
Especially some that are, tied to government schemes and infrastructure limitations.
Right, yeah.
So it's about, balancing that excitement for the growth with, a realistic view of what could be tricky.
Definitely. Got to keep it real.
All right, so let's jump right in.
Great.
Looking at this earnings call, solar pumps are their star performer, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, solar pumps are really the driving force, behind Shakti Pumps' current success. They've seen this surge in demand, and a lot of that is driven by government initiatives, things like the QUM scheme, which is really encouraging farmers to make that switch.
Okay, now you're talking acronyms.
Right.
Can you unpack the QUM scheme a little bit?
Sure.
What is it, and why is it such a big deal for both, the farmers and Shakti Pumps?
All right, so QUM stands for Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Uttam Abhiyan. Kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
But basically, it's a program run by the Indian government, and it's designed to really push the use of solar energy in agriculture.
Okay.
So the scheme provides financial help to farmers for setting up those solar-powered pumps.
I see.
And that does a couple of things, right? It reduces their dependence on the grid, which can be unreliable sometimes.
Right.
And it helps them cut down operating costs because they're not at the mercy of fluctuating diesel prices.
So it's like a win-win. The farmers get reliable irrigation that's affordable.
Exactly.
And Shakti Pumps gets, this booming market for their pumps.
Yeah, they're really tapping into a need.
And the numbers are, they're pretty impressive. In Q2 of FY25, Shakti Pumps brought in like 487 crores in revenue just from the solar pump segment.
Wow. That's a big jump from the previous quarter, 445 crore in Q1.
Yeah, it's a massive leap. It's pretty clear that this QSUM scheme is making a big difference.
Oh, it's definitely having a significant impact. And all of this has pushed Shakti Pumps to the forefront. They are now a dominant player in the Indian solar pump market.
That's pretty impressive. But it's not all about solar pumps for them, right?
That's right. That's their main focus right now. But
yeah,
they do have other things going on.
What other business segments are kind of contributing to their success?
Well, they've got a pretty active export business. They're working on projects in Uganda and looking at new markets.
Right.
So not limiting themselves to just India.
So they're going global. Okay, interesting. What about within India? What else are they doing?
Well, they're strategically kind of expanding their retail presence, reaching more customers directly, that sort of thing. And although it wasn't a big part of the earnings call, they do work with industrial clients too.
Okay, so they've got this pretty diversified portfolio then.
Yeah.
There was one segment, though, that really caught my eye, EV motors.
Oh, yeah.
What's a pump manufacturer doing dabbling in the electric vehicle space?
It's interesting, right? It shows that they're thinking ahead, trying to stay on the cutting edge. They have this subsidiary, Shakti EV.
Okay.
And they make EV motors.
Okay.
They actually supply them to manufacturers like JBM.
So they're already part of the EV supply chain. Wow.
Exactly.
That's not just, experimenting. That's like getting in there.
They're serious about it.
That's cool.
And to prove it, they're actually building a whole plant dedicated to EV motors. First phase opens December 2024.
That's a pretty big jump, going from pumps to EV motors. Sounds like they're not just riding the solar wave, but they're getting ready to ride the EV wave too.
They're looking to the future, definitely.
Yeah. Now, kind of zooming out a little bit, what's the overall outlook for the solar pump industry in India?
Well, from what I gather, both from the earnings call and my understanding of the industry, the outlook is very positive.
Really?
Yeah, lots of factors are coming together to create this really good environment for growth.
Okay, so what are these key factors that are fueling the solar pump boom?
Well, we already talked about the government support, right, with schemes like QSUM.
Mm-hmm.
This financial assistance is really making solar pumps accessible to farmers all over the country.
Right. And it's not just about the money. There's also this growing awareness among farmers, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
About the benefits of solar, in the long run.
Yeah, they're seeing that solar-powered pumps are just more reliable and sustainable
Mm-hmm.
than, those old grid-powered ones or the diesel ones.
Mm-hmm.
And with electricity costs always going up, solar just makes more and more sense, just financially.
It's like this perfect storm of factors.
Right.
Pushing people towards these pumps, it sounds like the industry is just going to, explode.
It really does have that potential. Even the chairman of Shakti Pumps, he said during the call.
Yeah?
Total India market, 4.5 crore pump connection is with grid.
Wow.
It is a very big market, and the size of the market is sky the limit. Pretty powerful statement.
Well, sky's the limit.
No, exactly.
But, we know that rapid growth often comes with its own set of growing pains. What are some of the key challenges that they highlighted in the earnings call that could potentially hinder Shakti pumps along the way?
Well, one of the biggest concerns they brought up was execution bottlenecks. Basically, their main challenge isn't a lack of orders.
Right.
It's about meeting this huge demand while maintaining quality.
Okay, so it's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah. High demand is good.
But still a problem.
But you got to manage it. They also mentioned the dependence on those government schemes.
Oh, yeah.
While they've been a huge help in boosting the industry, there's always that uncertainty.
Yeah.
What if policies change?
Mm-hmm.
Funding gets cut.
Mm-hmm.
It could really impact their growth.
That's a point.
And then finally, there's the issue of infrastructure.
Okay.
Connecting solar pumps to the grid can be tricky, especially in areas where the electricity infrastructure is just not up to par.
Yeah.
They actually ran into this in their pilot project in Ajmer.
Oh, really?
Which we can talk about a bit later.
Yeah.
But it just highlights, the challenges they face.
Okay. So while the outlook is, like you said, overwhelmingly positive,
Mm-hmm.
there are some practical things that Shakti Pumps needs to navigate.
Right.
To make sure they can keep this success going.
It's about being strategic, efficient, and being able to adapt.
Yeah. It sounds like they're at a pretty critical point.
I think so.
Maybe we can dive a little deeper into their plans for the future when we come back for part 2.
Definitely.
And see how they're going to tackle these challenges head on.
Sounds good. Welcome back. We were talking about the challenges and the opportunities ahead for Shakti Pumps, and I'm really curious to hear more about their plans, their vision for the future.
Yeah, it seems like despite those hurdles we were just discussing, they're pretty optimistic about what's to come.
Yeah, they sound very positive. And from these earnings call excerpts, it seems like they're not just, sitting around and waiting for things to happen. They're actually taking steps.
Right.
To make the most of the growing market and tackle those challenges head on.
Exactly. One of the things they're focusing on is capacity expansion, really investing to make sure they can keep up with this, with the expected demand for their solar pumps.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do we know any specifics about those plans, like numbers?
We do. They estimate that their current capacity can handle, around INR 2,500 to 3,200 crores in revenue. But they've already got this new expansion plan in motion.
Okay.
Aiming to boost their total capacity to a whopping 5,000 crores.
Wow, that's quite a jump. It sounds like they're really thinking long term, not just, trying to meet the immediate demand.
Absolutely, yeah. It shows real confidence in the sustained growth of this solar pump market.
Definitely. And it's not just about, churning out more pumps. They're also focused on innovation, especially their patented technology for grid-connected solar pumps.
Oh, yeah. That grid-connected technology is really fascinating. It sounds like it could be a game changer for both farmers and the whole electricity grid. Can you explain how it works?
Yeah. So basically, it's this really clever system where these pumps can not only draw power from the grid when they need it,
okay,
but they can also feed excess power back into the system.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine farmers, especially those in in really sunny areas, they can actually become these mini power producers, contributing to the stability of the grid.
Oh, wow.
And even potentially earning some income from that excess energy they generate.
So it's like it totally changes the dynamic. They're not just consumers of electricity anymore. Right. They become, prosumers.
Prosumers, yeah.
Producing and consuming.
Exactly. And it fits in perfectly with India's larger goals, right? Pushing renewable energy, more decentralized power. It's a step towards a more resilient energy future.
Absolutely. But I remember they did mention some challenges during that pilot project in Ajmer with this technology.
Right.
What were the hurdles they faced?
Right. So the Ajmer project, it was really valuable. It showed that in some areas, the infrastructure just isn't there yet.
Okay.
A lot of the existing grid infrastructure in India just isn't designed for this two-way flow of energy.
Right.
So upgrading that infrastructure is going to be key if they want to unlock the full potential of this technology.
It's a good reminder that even with amazing technology, you still need the infrastructure to support it.
It all has to work together. And Shakti Pumps knows this. They're looking into, better feeder versions and working with the authorities to improve grid connectivity.
So it's a team effort, really. They can't do it alone.
Exactly. The success of this technology depends on discoms, the government, everyone working together to upgrade that grid.
It's kind of like a simple innovation. A solar pump actually reveals how complex our national electricity grid is.
Absolutely. All these interconnected systems.
Yeah. It shows that we need to think holistically about this energy transition, not just the technology, but the whole system that supports it.
Yeah, that's crucial. So let's circle back to those factors driving Shakti Pump's success. We talked about the QUSM scheme, but there's another big one at play, the rising cost of diesel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a huge factor for farmers all over India.
Absolutely. And as diesel prices climb higher, solar-powered pumps just become more and more attractive financially.
It's pretty simple, right? The cost-benefit analysis just shifts.
Exactly. The payback period for a solar pump gets shorter.
Makes sense.
And it just makes more and more sense for farmers to invest. It's a classic case of economics driving the adoption of green technologies.
And it's not just about saving money either, right?
No.
There's a growing awareness of the environmental benefits of solar. Which is becoming more important to farmers.
For sure. Farmers are more and more aware of their environmental impact.
Yeah.
And they want to do their part. Solar pumps are just a cleaner, more sustainable way to irrigate their fields. It's a positive change.
It really is. Sustainability it's not just a buzzword anymore,
Right.
It's a real consideration.
It's a real factor.
And with climate change and pollution being such big concerns in India, this focus on the environmental benefits of solar it's just going to keep growing.
And it fits perfectly with the government's push for renewable energy, right? They're actively promoting solar as a way to fight climate change and reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. It's creating a really favorable environment for companies like Shakti Pumps.
So we've got this amazing combination of factors, economic, environmental, and policy-driven,
Yeah.
all contributing to this incredible growth of the solar pump industry.
It really is a perfect storm of opportunity for Shakti Pumps. But as we said before, opportunities often come with risks. What are some of the things that could potentially, impact their future?
Right.
Slow them down even.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the biggest risks I see is their reliance on a few key markets within India. It's a concentration risk.
Yeah, if demand in those markets were to drop, it could have a big impact on their revenue.
Absolutely. So diversification is key. Expanding into new markets, both within India and internationally.
Exactly.
That'll be really important for their long-term stability.
Your efforts to grow that export business is a step in the right direction.
Definitely.
But, success in new markets means understanding those markets.
Yeah.
Local conditions, regulations, customer needs. It's not just about copying what worked in India.
Right.
They'll have to adapt.
Yeah. We also talked about their supply chain challenges, especially since they rely on imported components like solar panels. How can they handle the risk of fluctuating raw material prices?
Well, it's tricky. They'll need to, secure a reliable supply of good quality components at good prices. So that means negotiating with suppliers, maybe exploring some hedging strategies to protect themselves from price swings.
So manage those costs, but also be able to offer competitive prices in a market that's always changing. There's also another potential threat we haven't really talked about yet. Competition.
Oh, right. As this market keeps growing, new players are bound to come in.
For sure.
And that could put pressure on their margins, make it tougher for them to keep their top spot.
Absolutely. So staying ahead of the competition is going to be huge for them.
Yeah. Innovation, efficient operations, building a strong brand, these are all going to be essential.
They'll need to keep innovating, be responsive to customers, and maintain that high quality.
Exactly. It's a race.
And they also mentioned that internal challenge of execution, especially as they scale up production so quickly.
Right, making sure the quality stays high even when they're growing fast.
Because any slip-ups there, that could hurt their reputation and learn customer trust.
Absolutely. That can have a domino effect.
So it sounds like even though the future looks really bright for Shakti Pumps, there are some serious challenges.
Yeah, they'll need to be strategic, operationally excellent, and committed to innovation.
They're operating in a really dynamic environment. Their success will depend on how well they can navigate all of this.
It's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the booming solar pump market to Shakti Pump's position in it, the things driving their success, and those challenges they're up against.
Yeah.
But there's one really interesting aspect we haven't dived into yet.
Oh, you mean?
Their ventures into the EV motor market.
Right.
It's a bold move.
Yeah.
And it deserves its own deep dive.
It's a fascinating decision, and it could really reshape their future. Let's explore that in detail when we come back for the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've talked a lot about Shakti Pumps, their growth in the solar pump market, the challenges, the opportunities. But we saved the most interesting part for last. Their jump into EV motors.
Yeah, it definitely caught my eye too. It really shows how ambitious they are, and their willingness to kind of adapt as technology changes.
They're not just dipping their toes in the water here. It's like they're doing a cannonball into this EV motor market.
Right.
It seems like a pretty natural progression, though.
Yeah.
Given how much the electric vehicle industry is growing, especially in India.
Definitely seems like a smart move. And with the government pushing for electric mobility, they're clearly positioning themselves to ride that wave,
And from what we've seen, they're not aiming small. Their subsidiary, Shakti EV, they're already supplying motors to JBM.
Right.
And they've even mentioned wanting to work with, bigger companies like Eicher, Tata, Shock Leyland.
Wow, that's ambitious. Sounds like they don't just want to supply parts, they want to be a major player in this EV motor market.
It does. And that investment in a new EV motor plant set to open in December 2024, that really shows how committed they are.
Yeah, they're putting their money where their mouth is. It's a clear sign they believe in this market.
But like with any new venture, there are going to be bumps along the way, right? What are some of the challenges they might face in this pretty competitive landscape?
Well, the EV motor market's already pretty crowded. There are established players, both in India and globally, who have a big head start.
Right.
So it's not going to be easy to build their brand and gain market share in this space.
Yeah, they're going to have to prove themselves, show that they can be trusted, show that their EV motors are high quality, reliable, can perform well.
Absolutely. And they're going to be dealing with a lot of regulations too. The EV industry is still pretty young. Regulations are constantly changing.
Yeah, it's a fast-paced environment. They're going to have to be adaptable, that's for sure.
Keeping up with all the safety standards, emission norms, all of that, it's going to be essential.
No room for error there. And then there's the tech side of things. The technology in the EV sector is constantly evolving.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So they can't fall behind. They're going to have to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to, battery technology, motor efficiency, all those key areas.
It's all about innovation. They'll need to keep investing in research and development to keep up with all the breakthroughs.
Because if they fall behind technologically, well, that could put them at a real disadvantage.
Yeah, for sure. But even with all these challenges, there's this huge potential for growth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the EV market in India is expected to just explode in the next few years.
Yeah.
Government incentives, consumer demand, it's all pointing towards a big boom.
So if Shakti Pumps can manage those challenges, they could really be in a great position to ride this wave of growth, maybe even replicate their success with solar pumps.
It's a risk, but it's a calculated one. They're taking their expertise in manufacturing and applying it to this new market with tons of potential. If they can execute their strategy well, the payoff could be huge.
It's a bold move, definitely. But if they play their cards right, it could be a really smart one.
Well, I think we've come full circle in our deep dive into Shakti Pumps. We've seen their impressive rise in the solar pump market, their bold move into EV motors. They're really at the forefront of two major trends that are shaping India's future.
Right, solar energy and electric mobility. It's been fascinating to see how they're embracing innovation, really committing to a more sustainable future. It's a great example of, how to balance growth with responsible practices.
They've got a lot going for them, a strong position in the market, a commitment to innovation, a really forward-thinking vision. But they're also operating in this dynamic, challenging environment.
Yeah, it's going to take adaptability, strategic execution, and that constant focus on staying ahead of the curve. It'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Can they make it in the EV motor market? Can they overcome all those hurdles? Only time will tell.
But one thing's certain, they're definitely a company to watch. They're pushing boundaries, innovating, and contributing to a greener, more sustainable India.
Absolutely.
And as always, I encourage you, our listeners, to keep learning, to dig deeper into these topics, explore the world of solar pumps, the rise of EVs in India. The more you know, the more you can make informed decisions about the future you want to be a part of.
That's right. Knowledge is power, and the future is in our hands.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Shakti Pumps.